Hello and welcome to Model Railroading for Dummies, the how-to show for model railroading dummies just like me. Now, this year we're going to continue working on the Piggly Wiggly. So, the next step is going to be to paint some parking lines in the parking lot and then adding the static grass around the area to finish the scene. So, without any further ado, let's go over to the layout and finish the scene. Okay. Now this is all nicely dry. Now it's time to draw in the parking lines. So, did a little research, and most of your parking spaces are going to be about 9 feet by 18 feet. So what I did here is I took a piece of styrene and I took my scale ruler. I did a scale 9 by 18 feet so that we can have a fairly accurate parking spot. So what we're going to want to do is have this nice and level right here, and we'll use this to mark out our parking lines. There. There. Now I know exactly how long I need to paint, because I'm going to paint this. I need to know exactly how long these are going to be, because last thing you want is to make things look uneven, where some of the strides are smaller, some of the spacing's narrower or wider. You want it to look even. You don't necessarily have to get exactly scale accurate, but what you want is to have something that is even. The stripes are the same length, the width is the same width, and all that stuff. If you get that, you can get away with having smaller scale or between the stripes. So that's the main thing. Just to make sure that everything looks the same. Okay, I think the length of this building here is designed for exactly 6 parking spaces, because that's what it sure looks like. It ended up perfectly, absolutely perfectly. So the scale length of this building is 9 times 6, or 54 feet. So next thing we're going to want to do is to mask off the areas where we're going to paint. First thing I think we want to do is have one long one right at the end here. one thing you definitely want to do is try and get the tape down as smooth as possible so that you're not likely to get any drip unders. So, now the hard part here is going to be trying to get the stripes fairly well even. So, just get about the length you want. And then I'm going to take a scissors here instead of ripping it off so I can have a nice straight edge over here. I think that'll work. And it's crooked. So. There, that's better. Still a little on the crooked side, but it'll do. Now, I'm sure there's a specific width that you could do for this, but for me, I'm just going to do with what I think will look good. Which can, as long as I can get them so that the width of the stripes are about the same, that's all that really matters to me. Okay, I got the tape all nicely down. Now it's time to paint the stripes. Now I did notice that this one stripe here did not turn out exactly the greatest. It's a little bit white here, but overall it's good. Okay, I'm going to be using this Apple Barrel White because it's cheap. So I'm going to be putting it in a little communion cup here. Yeah, because that's about all I'm going to need. Now, we're going to want to do this in fairly light. so that, and then build it up in smaller layers, just to make sure that there is going to be no leakage. And you know, how many coats you're going to want to put on this will vary based on how worn you're going to want the stripes to look. Like, I may just go with one coat, one, maybe two coats here, and make it look like these stripes have been here for how many years. Because they're not going to spend a lot of money on a nice paint job for their stripes. Just be extra careful that you don't hit the building by accident. And one thing I'm going to do before I paint anymore is I'm going to mostly try to erase some of the pencil marks so that it doesn't show through as much. So that's more, so it ain't such a dark line. And the paint should hopefully be able to hide it better. Okay, back to the painting. Okay, the stripes are painted, and I think I'm just going to go with one coat, maybe touch-up work. You know, just adding a very, very thin coat here and there. But I think I'm just going to keep that to make it look like this parking lot's been used a while. So, now the next step is going to be to surround the air, finish the scenery around the place so that it's finished scenery. So I'm going to move the camera a bit and get the next supplies in, and let's get to it. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is to fill out this ground around the edge here, where put some grass and stuff in here. So, what we're going to do to fill out this little bit of edge here is going to use some sand to represent gravel. Because usually, it is not uncommon if they need to bring in dirt, it would more than likely be gravel. So, that's what I'm going to use here to represent. I'll just use sand here. Just carefully put some in here. And as this is just sifted sand that I sifted myself. It costs absolutely nothing except time. So, if you want to fill in cracks and stuff, I would get dirt or sand or something, and not need to buy anything. It's a lot cheaper, and it could get the same results basically as if you'd fill this up with putty or sculpt a mold. Man, I can't say it today. Only this is cheaper, so that's good. That looks good for now. Now we're going to need our base layer, which I'm going to use Blended Turf Earth Blend number T1350 from Woodland Scenics. So this is sort of a brownish color because I'm going to cover up this area here with static grass. Lost my train of thought there. And one thing I just realized, I want to have a nice straight edge here. So what I want to do next really is take some painter's tape here and paint right along the edge here. And I don't have to be quite so particular about let's see, that looks real big. Oops, I did not get that quite. There. Now I don't have to worry so much about getting stuff in the wrong place. Okay, be careful on the tracks here, try not to get it too much on the ballast area. Okay, right along this edge here, it is there's a crack that goes all the way through. So what I'm just going to do here is use a bit of a Kleenex to fill in the crack here. There. There, now I can just fill that up with gravel or sand, and then it won't be leaking through onto my desk. Now, the next color I'm going to be using is Woodland Scenics Blended Turf Green Blend number T1349. Now, I'm not being at all particular here because most of this is, like I said, going to be covered with static grass. But I'm going to want to be fairly good right along this edge here. Make sure I cover up the cement. There. There, that looks good. Now the next step is going to be to wet this whole area with 70% isopropyl alcohol. So just start on the edge and let it wick in. So the last thing you want to do is to start in the middle and let it pool up and stuff. Now I would probably work in a smaller area over a larger area, because then it's a little bit more manageable. Okay, now it's time for the next step here. Now I'm going to be using Woodland Zenith Static Grass Flock Medium Green FL635 and mixed in with Static Grass Flock Burnt Grass FL633. Because that's what I used before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-mix it. So here, a pinch of burnt, just putting it in the cap. A pinch of medium green, and a tiny pinch of medium green, because I think that last pinch was a little small. So about 50-50, give or take. Doesn't have to be exact, because real life grass is very varied. So this is their shorter version. That's all I've got. Generally I would go for the longer stuff, but this is the first stuff I got. In fact, it's so far been the only stuff. So just mix it in. So one thing that you could do to make it look cool is, you know, have say the medium green or some other type of green. Have with this short, use it for the shorter stuff, and then do the longer stuff and use burnt. Like the taller grass is all died off, and then there's newer green grass growing up in there. And I think we need more green in here. Yeah, that's a little bit better. I'm still going to go for a pinch more. So this is more like a 60-40 mix. Yeah, I like that. Hopefully that's enough. Now, the static grass applicator I am using here is a homemade one that I found off of eBay, because it was about 20 bucks, versus your name brand ones are going to cost more, like in triple digits, like over 100 bucks. It's like 20 bucks versus 100 bucks. Easy decision here. The other stuff may actually be a little bit better, but overall, this is all you're going to need for it. If you're going to be doing a lot of stuff, you may want to invest in a real professional one. But even then, some of these smaller ones can actually work just as well Okay, I'm tape the wire here so it doesn't keep on going into the grass. So now, put this on my right hand. Now we'll dump it in. And cover the whole area like it needs to be mowed. There. Now I'm gonna let this dry, then I'll vacuum up the loose strands. Then after that I can finish the whole area and I'll show you what it'll look like. Okay, I have removed the tape here and I discovered something that you need to do when you're doing this. Now, if you look closely here, I've kind of fixed it somewhat, because almost, I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but you can see where the tape was, where the alcohol and glue seeped under the tape. I would say as soon as you get all this stuff on, take the tape off. And then dab up anything that's leaked through, because it needs some nasty looking lines. You can see at the corner there a little bit better. Now what I did to try and fix this is sort of took a sanding sponge and tried sanding it down a bit, which didn't do a real good job of doing, but what it did do was it did kind of bring some dust forward and grind some dust onto the darker spots so that it's not quite as noticeable. And also, this spot right here, the cement was a little bit too thin there, and I pulled up a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is, I first painted it with a little bit of gray paint, and I'm going to instead paint it black to make it look like tar. Okay, I'm going to be using Apple Barrel Black for the tar. Now, if this was a little bit deeper, what I would do is put a little bit of plaster, mix up a tiny batch of plaster, and then do it that way. Kind of trying to get it on fairly thick to kind of bring the level up a little bit, since it is rather thin. There, that looks pretty good. Okay, the paint there is dry, and it looks pretty good. Or tolerable. So that looks good. Let's add a few cars now. So, whoops. Chipped off a little bit on the edge. That's not any big deal. There. A few cars there. And I don't think it looks half bad, if I do say so myself. Okay, the Piggly Wiggly is now done. And if I do say so myself, it looks pretty good. I mean, there's a little hiccups along the way, but when you're a monorail dummy, that's what happens. So, next up, we're going to be working on the elevator slash feed mill for my layout. So far I've got nearly 100 subscribers. Thank you very much for getting me there. Let's see how well we can do in 2020. So if you like this video, please feel free to leave a like and please subscribe. And if you do subscribe, make sure to hit the little bell icon so you can receive notifications when I release new content. So until next time, keep working on your model railroads, keep trying new techniques, and until next time, keep your trains on the tracks.